Welcome to Office Hours. I am Steve Drost. With me, as always, Will Kaplan. Of course, Will and I are both from the Quivr CRM team. What is Quivr? We are the CRM built by financial advisors for financial advisors. Our objective at Quivr is simple. How can we help you run your business at peak efficiency? Each episode, we tackle a couple of cool items that came directly from our users who are trying to do just that, make their lives even easier. Well, we even have an old series of content about me liking to push buttons, me liking to touch things, right? If I'm at the museum and it says I can't touch something, for our listeners who like the show How I Met Your Mother, that's one of my favorite shows. And there's an episode where Barney and Ted and Robin, they all talk about wanting to touch things inside of the museum. I love that episode. That's one of my dreams. But however, at Office Hours, we got asked a really good question. They were editing something inside of Quivr and that little pencil wasn't there. They could not edit a field.
Yeah, and I think that's common frustration. I mean, there's a couple places in Salesforce where you feel like you should be able to edit something and you can't. And it's like, I don't understand what's going on. Why can't I touch this thing? And in this particular case, you're on a record. Like we run into this sometimes in reporting, and that's a separate topic. We're not going to talk about that right now. But like, I'm on a record. There's an edit button. I click it, and this field that I want to change it's not there, and I can't do anything with it. And there's a couple reasons typically why you'll run into that. And we're going to kind of cover that briefly today, just to I guess, try and give you a little bit of a deeper dive into Salesforce and how some of it works, but also hopefully alleviate some of that frustration of why it doesn't.
Yeah. So there's three situations that I can think of pretty simply where you might not be able to edit a field. The first one is one that you're probably going to run into the least amount. This is a field that's simply not editable. And that can happen because it is, well, one, Salesforce just simply doesn't let you edit it, or two, you don't have permission to edit it. Now, you have permission. If you're a system administrator and you have full-fledged access, you have permission to edit basically everything. So it shouldn't happen often. The most common one that I will see this on is you can't edit a created date for a record. When I create a household, that created date gets timestamped. You cannot change that. And that is because that is when it was created. The same thing is true for completion of a task. You can't change the task completion date unless you uncomplete it and then recomplete it, but you actually can't edit at that field. The second time, Will, is formulas, and those come up a lot. So formulas, for example, is, right, where that data is being calculated based on something else. And I mean, you can tell, like, right on the contact page, we have a couple dozen formula fields, right?
And the formula fields can be confusing too, because formula fields don't necessarily just mean addition and subtraction. There are really some relatively complex formulas that can exist in the system. And it could be something where it's like, I'm going to put together a client's name in a certain way using things like concatenate, which we all love from Excel. And good news, it's in Salesforce too. But like, you can sort of string things together and you're like, this is a text field. It looks like a text field. It's a formula field, and you can't edit a formula field because it's grabbing stuff from other places and gluing it together.
Yep. And on the contact page, right, we have all of those fields towards the bottom. That is day turn 50, year turn 50, day turn 55, year turn 55. All of those are formulas. So you can't edit those fields because once you enter the the contact's birth date, all of those fields are going to be calculated automatically. And then there's a third reason, Will, that you can't edit something.
This one's a little trickier. Yeah, this one will catch even, I think, us by surprise sometimes, because we forget that we set it up this way. But Steve, the one that you're talking about, I think, is ultimately where sometimes we will display information on a record that is related to a different record. It's coming from someplace else in the system. And the one that I always go back to as an example of this is on our RMD records, we display information about the original account holder if it is an inherited IRA. And the reason for that is because we want to give you that date of birth and that date of death so that if you're going to check the calculations, you have that information at hand. Well, we don't want to store that information on that record, because that means that every time we create that record, we'd have to put that information back in it. And so it needs to live someplace else. And the best place for information about date of birth, date of death, it's on a contact, right? Like that's a great place to put it. It makes a ton of sense. And so what we're doing is we're sort of leveraging a couple of tricks inside of Salesforce where the contact doesn't change, but we need that information in another place. And so there's ways to sort of grab that information and push it through the system. But when you're on an RMD record, There's no pencil. You can't edit it there because that data is coming from a contact record. And so this is kind of one of the trickier ones that you'll run into sometimes of like, there's no pencil. I don't understand why. It's not a formula. Why can't I edit this? And it's because it lives someplace.
Yeah, you can
Does
only
that make sense?
edit that data when you're on that data's page. And this is kind of tangential to this conversation here, but that last part might be something that not many users know about. And you are able to display content, display data from a different record onto a different screen, just like what you just mentioned. And we do it sometimes in the system. We don't do it everywhere because it can get confusing, like you just mentioned. But yeah, when that related data is displayed on a page, it's just simply not editable. But yeah, that was an interesting question. Yeah, she's just like, why can't I change this? Why can't I change this?
I want to click it. I want to edit it. Yeah.
But no, it was great. But yeah, if you have any questions about that, come to office hours. If you're ever in Quivr and you're like, wait, why can't I do this? Or I feel like I should be able to do this. There's a good chance you should be able to do it because that just means we didn't think of the functionality. But every once in a while, there is a legitimate reason as to why you can't do something. So if you have any questions, come hang out with us on Wednesdays. Join us for office hours where we can help you and answer these questions. If you're not a Quivr user, that's okay. Everybody makes mistakes. Nobody is perfect, but it's not too late. Come schedule a demo. Come hang out with me. Come hang out with Will and see what Quivr can do live for you.